Welcome back to another glass with Waterford Estate. Today we are joined by Brandon Engelbrecht, one of our fantastic floor managers we have here at Waterford. Welcome to the podcast, Brandon.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Hey.
Well, nice to be here.
Fantastic. lovely to have you. So you've had an incredible journey here with Waterford. You've grown up with the estate, starting very young, moving all the way to earning the title of floor manager. That's an incredible job. How has that journey gone? How have you managed to work your way up so well?
No, it's been an incredible journey for me, if I'm being very honest with you. Working here is how I obviously got to know wine. Before I started working in Waterford, I really didn't know anything.
It's got a beautiful way of making you fall in love with the stuff, isn't
Exactly. So as I mentioned earlier, it was a holiday job for me. Finished matric in 2013, and yeah, that's when I pretty much got onto the floor, started doing tastings and started working with people. And just in the courtyard itself, you literally deal with people from the whole world. So you don't have to travel that much. You can literally get your conversation and you speak to people and get to learn all those stories about what's happening, not just here in South Africa, but around the world as well.
Phenomenal, dude. So you have learned all your wine knowledge. I mean, you're the one who pretty much trained me in wine, and I learned everything from you. You've learned everything from the estate here and just putting in the time in the tasting room.
Yes, no, definitely. So as I said, coming here, knew nothing about wine. Try to help out a little bit in the cellar wherever I could, ask the winemakers as many questions. They probably got very annoyed with me. But I did take it a little bit step further. So I did my introduction with wine with Cape Wine Academy, and then recently got my WSET level 2. So trying to use that knowledge on the floor. But this is essentially where I learned everything, the basics of wine.
That's fantastic. And then today we are drinking our Old Vine Project Chenin Blanc. We're on the 2020 vintage at the moment. Chenin, Brandon, I mean, you'll know pretty much all about this. It is everywhere here in South Africa. It's been so widely planted. How did it actually come to the country?
So yeah, Chenin Blanc was one of the first grapes that were actually planted in South Africa. The grape came here in like 1655, if I'm not mistaken. So it was one of the very, very first varietals that I got here with the French Huguenots. They were the first to bring some of the cuttings into South Africa. And yeah, we've been growing it and making wine with it for over 350 years now.
That's a very long time to make some really good wine. So there must be some really old vines then in the country. And is that what the Old Vine Project is all about? Is it the preservation of that heritage?
Very much so. If you look at the grape itself, South Africa is one of like the leading planters of Chenin Blanc. So I think we have a lot of good quality Chenin here, and because we've been growing it for so long, you do tend to find some of the oldest Chenin Blanc vines here with us as well. And they are producing very, very good quality wine, I must say.
Phenomenal.
So yeah, this one, I see it's got the certificate heritage sticker on it. So obviously it's part of the Old Vine Project. So Old Vine Project it's a little incentive that got started so in 2012, sort of as I said, it's an incentive for grape growers to keep their vines a little bit longer so that you can produce better quality wine. A lot of people that just grow grapes don't often think about the quality behind a bottle of wine. So they pretty much just keep their vines for a few years, rip them out, replant new ones because they focus on quantity and not quality. So we're looking at about 20 years where farmers would then pull out Chenin Blanc or older vines to get better quantity out of their vines. So that's why the Old Vine Project was started for those guys, as I said, as an incentive. So just to tell them, you keep your vine for 35 years older and maybe a little bit longer, and you can even sell it at a higher price and still make the money that you set out for yourself in the beginning of the year.
Very interesting. So 35 years is the cutoff?
35 years is the cutoff. You can't register your vines as OVP if it's not 35 years and older. So the idea is obviously to improve the quality of South African vineyards, but at the same time, you're also improving the quality of South African wine.
Oh, very interesting, man. Very, very interesting. So I've actually heard that there are other uses for Chenin. People have been making other alcohols out of them. What else are we making out of Chenin Blanc these days?
Yeah. No, there's quite a few things. So South Africa is one of the leading brandy producers, and Chenin Blanc is one of the main varietals that gets used for that. That's why a lot of farmers that don't focus on making wine, they just try and obviously to make money with the Chenin Blanc grape. They grow it and then sell it to these brandy distillers, and that's where a lot of Chenin Blanc actually goes to. That's why South Africa's, as I said, we have more than 50% of the world's plantings just here.
More than 50%?
Yeah, more than 50%.
We plant more than half the world's Chenin Blanc planting in our country.
In our country.
That's amazing. Proudly South African, almost, you could say. Phenomenal.
And true to being as like one of South Africa's like leading grapes, it just shows how our country is. It's one of the varietals when it comes to wine who's the most versatile. There's so many things that you can do with Chenin Blanc. And just looking at our country, we have a very versatile country with about how many like different languages that we speak in this country. Looking at our land that we have here, just in terms of like the fynbos that we grow here in South Africa. The fynbos is like one of the smallest floral kingdoms in the world, but it's just here in the Cape, and it's the most diverse, even though it's the smallest. So that's like true to what South Africa really is
really
as well.
Is down to our core, what we are.
Exactly.
Phenomenal. That is amazing. So, well, let's dive into a little bit on this wine itself. What are we picking up? What do you get on the nose?
Because obviously it's made with a little bit more older vine. So for me, I get a lot of that minerality that shows through on the wine. On the nose is very classic Chenin Blanc. There's a lot of that fruit components, that stone fruit that you get on it. I'm not sure if that is the same thing that you might be picking up on the wine, but I get a lot of that stone fruit.
I definitely pick up that stone fruit.
A little bit of hints of pineapple.
And do you get in the palate this nice little rich honeycomb quality?
I do indeed. It reminds me quite a bit like a honeysuckle as well. Not that intense, but that minerality really follows through on the palate. That's like the key thing that I think stands out for me about Chenin. And what I love about it is that it's very well balanced. Very, very well balanced.
Yeah, I definitely think that balance is something that's always quite important. I believe we throw these or we mature these grapes in the concrete eggs that we have here on the farm.
Yes.
Just to touch on them, why are we not using oak?
So concrete is obviously a lot more of a neutral vessel. So the reason why we didn't want to use wood on it is because the concrete is not going to add the secondary flavors that the wood would give the wine. It doesn't add that rich, like smoky, toasty,
more grape orientated.
Yes, exactly, and especially because it's older vine. So with older vines, these are very good quality grapes. So you don't really want to use too much technique. So putting it into a barrel, you can sometimes lose some of those good quality characteristic that these older vines had. So I think the concrete egg just does the wine a little bit more justice. It just rounds the wine off because it helps a lot with the mouthfeel. And I think emphasizing again on that minerality, concrete just helps a lot with that as well.
Phenomenal. And I mean, you've definitely drank your fair share of wine at this point, working in the wine industry since 2013.
Too much so, yeah.
Too much so. I bet you've got a great story about Chenin Blanc. Is there anything you can tell us that's a fond memory, something that,
Chenin
makes you smile?
If thinking about it, Chenin is literally one of the first wines that I started drinking. Not knowing a lot about wine and just finishing school, getting to know it. We've got a Waterford based another Chenin Blanc is the Peak and Stream. So that's like one of the first wines that I started drinking, and it's literally what got me into wine and got me into what I am today, pretty much.
No. Fantastic. And I'm sure after working on the farm and being in the area for so long, you've got a favorite spot on the farm.
So I personally have to say it would be up at the Chardonnay deck.
Okay.
If I think about growing up on the farm, that used to be where we used to sneak off to on the like hot summer days, and we had to go for a little bit of a dip in the dam there by the Chardonnay deck. So I would have to say that's like one of my favorite spots here on the farm.
Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, so Brandon, looking forward now, let's reach into the future. What excites you most about what's happening here at Waterford?
I guess just working with people here in the floor. That's what excites me the most. Educating people on not just Waterford wine, but like wine in general. And looking at the new staff that's coming through the taste room, obviously teaching the younger generation a little bit more about wine, trying to build a passion in their mind as well, to obviously start tasting a little bit more. Not that I'm doing encouraging younger people to drink more, but just to educate themselves on wine, because wine really is, it's an art, it's a culture. And the more you learn about it, the more you do actually enjoy it. And I think that is probably one of the best things that I enjoy about this place the most.
That's fantastic. That's a lovely vision for the future, and to educate people. That's amazing. So Brandon, your personal aspirations, what do you see for Brandon Engelbrecht in the future?
I guess it's just personal development. That's what I see for myself. One thing you can always back the wine industry to do is teach you more. It doesn't really matter how long you've been in the wine industry. You could have been in this industry for 60 years. There's so much more things that you can learn. There's new grapes that's gonna come out that you might not know. New styles that the winemakers are using, techniques that winemakers are doing that's gonna interest you.
It's always evolving.
It's always evolving. Just looking at Stellenbosch alone, with the different wineries that's popped up in the last few years, the wine industry, it's always growing. So I think just personal development, is the best way to go forward for myself.
Fantastic, Brandon. That's very exciting for us and for you as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is what excites me.
Thank you for joining us and listening to this podcast of ours. And I'd just obviously like to extend another thank you to Brandon. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge and expertise and passion on Waterford and wine in general. We really do appreciate your insights.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure, Jeremy. You're lucky that you got me to stop talking, because once I start talking about wine, it's very difficult for me to stop.
For sure, I've seen it firsthand. But thank you so much.
My pleasure.